Right. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this week's Talent Talk. I'm joined by Martin Stockfleth Larsen, who is going to talk to us about recruitment analytics. And I'm very much looking forward to finding out a bit more about this. It's a subject I'm particularly interested in. I'm specifically interested in data and how it can make recruitment better. So, just to kick us off, if anybody has got any questions, then feel free to, instead of putting them in the ask a question section, which would be the intuitive thing to do, just do it in the chat where it says say hello and suggests you to say something nice. Do say something nice, say something that's not nice, say something, and we will definitely respond to anything that you've got in there. Martin, first off, we always do this. Just describe your background. Tell us about your CV. What have you done to date, and how have you got to where you are?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me, and also kudos to you for pronouncing my last name. Really great. So, long story short, I've been in tech for like 20 years. Started out really techy, and I've gone more and more commercial. And then during the last 10 years, I've been in marketing and advertising. Started out pure advertising, then I've gone into a martech company, a startup that was quite a failure, but I learned a lot from that. And then I've been 6 years as the CMO in a company called Adform, which is one of the world's largest advertising companies, all around pragmatic advertising and data management, etc. And now I'm here in Untame as the CEO. Joined the 1st of February. I've been on the board prior to that, but I saw a lot of similarities as we've seen in the world of marketing, where you can say marketing 10 years ago was like what you call the zeros, and today they are heroes because they have, gone all in on the whole like data-driven part of marketing, so they can show exactly if they invest $1 here, what would be the outcome. And I saw these similarities to talent attraction, which is employer branding and recruitment. And again, there's a lot of things to learn and to be done there, where you can achieve so much more efficiency. So that's why I joined. So.
Okay, I want to focus on a couple of aspects to this. So the first is you said you started off quite techy. What were you doing? Are you a software engineer? Are you a hardware guy? Tell me about your technical background, because that's really interesting.
Yeah, well, I cannot code. A hello world on a good day maybe, but more like hardware tech and software tech. So IT support, system administration, TCP/IP, network configuration, all of that, and that's how I got into more like software side. Took an education as a project manager within the software development, and that's how I started going into a more commercial direction. Then I thought it was interesting to talk with clients a bit more than just controlling their projects, selling, having these conversations. So that's my background. And the good thing about that is when you understand the technical part and you can translate that into a commercial offering, that's where you start to see some magic happen, depending on who you actually are speaking to and with. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell me about you were in a business that's, I think you used the term spectacularly failed. And I think in the UK, we certainly we don't like things failing, and we kind of keep going with things even though they're never going to work. And we don't really respect the entrepreneur who's had a string of failed businesses. But in the USA, that means that you're going to get a load of investment if you've got a bunch of failed businesses behind you, and they completely respect the fact that you're not going to make the mistakes that happened in the past. Tell me about I don't need the details of like why did the business fail, but tell me about your experience of being part of a failed business, and what do you think that gave you as as the kind of entrepreneur you are today?
Well, you learn a lot. You learn from your mistakes. That's quite sure. And you can say what I learned from that adventure was that we were a bit too early in the whole like data-driven marketing part back then, compared to where the market was actually where they were here, especially in the Nordics and Europe. So that was one learning around timing and actually how you can try to kind of tailor-make your message so it fits into different stakeholders in an organization, because it's not necessarily who you speak with that's going to use the product, who actually going to buy the product to begin with. So that's one learning. The other part is going through a rough period where you need to cut off staff constantly and still keep the spirit going and the mood. That was 1 year in hell, to be honest. The last year, where went from like 35 people to 6, right? So that was tough, but I learned a lot from that. That sometimes you just need to take the hard decisions, and then you learn how to actually bring those messages so you're not going to hurt anyone. And again, how can you tackle that? How can you see some of these things coming up earlier when you go into a new startup? So,
yeah. I've not done it. I've not had it quite as much of that a drop, but I've gone from 25 to 10 in the space of a year. And if you can navigate that, you can get through it, you can keep your spirit up, then you're not going to make the same mistakes again. And it's interesting. I'm hiring salespeople right now, and it's the first time I've hired salespeople for 4 or 5 years. We haven't had any salespeople in our business at all. So what we did last time is not what we're going to be doing this time. Very, very different. So, I want to touch on the bit about marketing as well. So marketing went from zero to hero, and I mean, I remember the days when marketing was about making sure that the right logo was on the golf balls and that the toast at the breakfast meeting was warm enough and stuff like that. And marketing's not that today. So marketing, I believe, is the kind of engine in almost any organization. Your background in marketing, what some of the parallels that you've seen between more mainstream marketing and recruiting? What are the main kind of parallels?
Well, you could say it's about experience, whether that's a customer or it's a candidate. Exactly the same way where you should actually think and treat whatever you do, right? And I do believe that we see now that marketing have learned to think about the customer and learned to build programs, data-driven programs around that. But that's for sure that big missing thing when it comes to recruitment, right? So I think there's a lot to be learned there to actually treat your potential candidates with respect throughout the full process. And there's a lot of integration to be done between employer branding and recruitment, where employer branding, again, similar to branding from the marketing world, are doing a lot to tell a great story, building these fantastic universe with great content and all of that. And then as soon as they kind of candidates gone through that and read and got an understanding of the company, how fantastic it is, then they're being met by an application flow from whatever 1984, right? Which completely ruined the experience from there, and people start falling off, and it's only the ones that actually really need a job that actually fulfill that. So I think there's a lot to be learned there. To think about the candidate, use that data to design your experience, but also use that data to be better in recruitment and be better in employer branding and connect all of that all together.
Yeah, so I see more people coming into recruitment from mainstream marketing, and I really welcome them coming into our world because they're bringing concepts and ways of thinking about things that I think that recruitment's been sadly lacking for a long time. And I'm not surprised, but I'm slightly frustrated every time I hear a recruitment team that I was doing when I started in 1999, and I think I really wish this industry would have moved on. Of course, in some ways, it absolutely has. Data, the job of a recruitment marketing person, and I think the job of a sourcer. To me, they're kind of blending. And I think that sourcers need to become data analysts and marketing people need to become kind of nurture marketing people. But let's specifically focus on data because that's what we're talking about today. And that's what your kind of product's all about, the company that you run. So tell us about the business and what does it do?
Yeah, sure.
Like literally pitch it. Literally just pitch it. Just go for it.
Yeah, sure. Well, you can say on Same.io, we're a data company. What we do is that we connect the bridge between employer branding, recruitment, and candidate experience, and we do that through data. So instead of you today you will have like an enormous amount of different platforms. You have your ATS, you will have your HR management system, you will do your employer branding campaigns across all kind of channels, recruitment, etc. Career website. What we do is we connect all of that data, clean it, connect it, and then we present it in a user-friendly dashboard with role-based access. So anyone in the organization could become proactive about the recruitment, about the employer branding, and actually understand and find exact bottlenecks they could fix in real time, instead of today, where everything is quite old, where they actually get access to any kind of data. So make them proactive so they can increase their efficiency and also hire people with a better and higher speed. So,
okay, so let's break that down. They can increase their efficiency and recruit better people faster. How exactly? Can you go into the details of that? What are the specific benefits?
Sure. Well, you can say that today, when you have all of these multiple platforms, right? So a recruiter would typically use some data in the ATS, right? Maybe use a report there, which takes forever to build, and then look at that. Employer branding would look into some kind of web analytics tools. Then you can say, then you will build an awful lot of Excel in order to answer questions around your applicant pipeline, about diversity, about your quality of hire, etc. And then you make new Excel in order to satisfy your stakeholders because they need certain answers. And all of that takes an awful lot of time. It's disconnected data, so you don't really get the accurate answer you need. And it's incredibly difficult to actually take any concrete actions based upon that. And by bridging all of that, that's where you become efficient, because when you can access real-time answers about your pipeline, about if the hiring bottleneck is actually in sales department because Johnny up in sales is too slow to actually bring candidates in for interviews, that's where you need to fix that, right? If every time you build fantastic campaigns, 20% of the people fall off in the application flow, that's something you need to fix. So there's all of those answers that actually are becoming, tangible and actionable, so you can fix that, and that will give you the efficiency. And when you increase your productivity, that's when you can start to decrease your cost per hire and actually filling your positions faster.
So where does a product like yours fit into the tech stack?
Well, it fits in. It's similar. Think about in the marketing world, you also have analytics, right? So you have web analytics in the marketing world, whether you use Google or you use Adobe or whatever, you use some kind of analytics tool. Then you can say, if you have a content management system for your e-commerce website, they will also have some kind of analytics. But in order to track everything you do across all your efforts and activities, connect the cost to return on investment, that's where you need a centralized analytics platform. And that's where we fit in. So we're similar to what you know from the marketing world, just in the talent attraction world. And then we connect all the kind of traffic you generate, regardless of the campaign, on your career website, and then we connect the full funnel all the way in through the ATS and beyond. So we can actually see exactly where people are coming from, what kind of quality they are, what kind of diversity, demographics they have. Are they applying? Are they going to interview? How far are they coming? Are they getting hired? And then we can bridge all that data back to your original campaign. And based upon that, you can start making better campaigns and do better planning.
Okay, so I suspect you need a certain amount of data to be able to have any kind of meaningful insights. Mm-hmm. What size of an organization would be optimum for using this type of approach and using your kind of analytics product?
Well, you can say it's around like 200 hires per year, 200 recruitments per year, and also some investment into the employer brand. That's normally where we start. We have certain clients that have fewer, but you can say that's where we start, and then it's all the way up to really, really large enterprises. So, but you need a certain volume in order to justify the business case, you can say.
Okay, so 200 hires a year. I mean, let's say 10 applications per hire, 2,000 candidates getting processed. That's going to give you enough data that you can start to understand where the bottlenecks are, which hiring managers are not performing, and you can get meaningful. Okay. So who within an organization is the most likely buyer of a product like yours, and separately, when it's integrated, who are the most likely users of this product?
Yeah, that's actually a fantastic question. We actually have struggled a lot with that ourselves, but we now kind of found like our way forward. And the funny thing is, we started by taking this product to talent acquisition. So like the head of talent acquisition, etc., thought it was the best idea in the world, and it still is. But it just seems like very much talent acquisition. I'm generalizing, of course, but again, they are very much used to do whatever they did 5 years ago, and they're not that data driven, of course. And I completely understand they rather want to focus on the interviews and all of that rather than and kind of the data part, right? Now we actually go to head of talent attraction, employer branding. As you just mentioned, we see a lot of people coming from the marketing communication side actually going to that part in the organization in HR, and they have a little bit different mindset, more used to working with data. They also understand it's even difficult for them when they do branding to actually justify their budgets and connecting what they do to business outcomes. And we go into them, and we also go into the head of people analytics.
Yeah.
New role in many organizations, but we're slowly starting to see that all here in Europe, that these people are starting to actually getting a larger responsibility, including helping talent. When the product, that's actually 70% talent acquisition, maybe 30% employer branding. And as soon as you start helping talent acquisition and actually helping understanding the data, give them some findings so they don't need to do that themselves from the beginning, that's where it starts to become fun and where they understand the value of this product. I think there's a lot of denial out there about, no, we don't need to be data driven. We have some data in our ATS, and they're not being pushed by KPIs from the top and metrics, etc. But we slowly starting to see that coming as well, which is of course is a huge benefit. So
yeah, okay. So I can understand why that is a challenge, because every organization is going to be different in terms of who's responsible for what specifically. A structure that I quite like is the structure that has recruitment, marketing, and sourcing being part of one team, which is maybe called talent attraction or something like that, that encompasses both areas. That to me would be quite a natural place for a product like yours. But I can also understand this kind of head of people analytics, and it's quite a new function. HR analytics is quite a new function within organizations.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's go about this. The kind of the biggest challenges that you are coming across, that people are saying. People are saying to you, well, actually, your product could solve this, or solve this, or solve this. What are you hearing from the market to be the biggest challenges in those organizations of 200 plus hires every year?
When you say challenges for them, challenges in general, or what do you mean?
What are the biggest recruitment challenges that they're talking to you about that you might be able to help them fix? What are the common trends?
I think there is like the typical one, right? It's difficult to fill positions, and the whole digital transformation is taking over any given organization almost in the world right now. So everyone needs some kind of IT people, right? And again, that is definitely the biggest challenge, right? That some kind of telco or a construction company all of a sudden need a large IT department, right? Because IT people, they don't even know that they actually would go into kind of a digital transformation, and they don't find their products that sexy or their brand that sexy. So that is of all, and that's almost regardless of the organization. Even public companies, government companies also IT people at the moment, right? So IT people, engineers, and then there is I think the last part, which is very much around just they don't really know which kind of questions to answer when it comes to talent acquisition, right? They are so busy actually just closing positions, finding new candidates across the whole organization, that they completely forget to actually think long term. And I think that's definitely the major challenge. That's also what we see when we maybe talk with directors of HR and roles that's a bit high focus, but it's on the table of the talent acquisition. So
yeah, okay, so I concur with that. Tech hiring is absolutely kind of across every organization. That's a challenge. The other one is sales hiring. Hiring salespeople is another one that's almost across every organization that I know. That's a constant challenge. That thing about not knowing what questions to ask is interesting. And I know that Danny Hodgson from Foresight is regularly finding it ironic that businesses are struggling to progress in terms of being more sophisticated at recruitment because they're just filling jobs and filling jobs and filling jobs the whole time. And so getting out of that rut is something that is difficult to achieve. Let's talk about HR people for a second, because talking about this type of subject with HR people versus like talent acquisition people, big difference or not so much?
But it very much depends on the person, right? Because I think we start to see head of HR, chief people officers, etc., that come from a different background, that have this more like business focus, actually running HR as a business, and actually, you say the thing is with HR, they actually have the most important department in the company, right? Because that's the one that actually bringing in talent to the company. Without talent, you cannot reach your revenue and your profit goals, right? But they just need to find a way to actually connect what they do to some business outcomes, right? There's a lot of opportunities of doing that because they're doing a great job. They just need to find the right way to actually tell the story, and you need to tell that with some kind of data, right? But we start to see new profiles coming in at a leadership level that has a different background and a different understanding of actually business, and not seeing HR as a service center, but actually see them as a value center. And that's I think a lot of companies start to see the importance of actually having such people in HR in the leadership. So
yeah, no, absolutely. And I believe that in 10 years' time, the job of a chief people officer, a chief marketing officer, various other jobs, they're actually going to be very, very similar. And they're all going to be very, very data driven, and they're going to be data focused, which brings me on to the point that I get regularly in response to things that I post on social media. I get people saying to me all the time, recruitment is about people. It's about one-to-one conversations, and that's never changed, and it's never going to change. What's your view on that?
It's not wrong. Of course, it's about people. But you can say, in order to reach those people, you need to do something, right? And that's where you start communicating on all of these social channels. You do content, you do all of these things, and that's a data game, right? Because you cannot talk with the person directly. So you need to find a way to actually get that person in your pipeline, regarding if you're using a tool like Candidate ID, or you want them to directly to apply, whatever you want to. That's where you can start talking with people from there on. But before that, it's very much a data game. And you can also say there's so many kind of different research that have been made about that data-driven companies are outperforming non-data-driven companies. And that regardless of that being in marketing or logistics or whatever. So I'm quite sure it will be exactly the same when it comes to HR, right? Yeah. Why should it be anywhere different? And again, if you're good at using data to actually bring in clients, then you have the opportunity to talk with them. And then your job is probably going to be even more fun, because then you don't need to use your time posting yet another post to a job board, right? Yeah. Where no one is going to apply.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I'm interested in is the precise sources of data. So hiring manager data, recruiter data, candidate data. what are all the different touch points? I mean, I'm getting quite tactical now. What are the different touch points that give you the most insight?
Well, you can say it's a matter of understanding the candidate journey, right? And you can say there's many ways you can answer that question. It's a super great question, right? But you can say, first of all, if we start with the basics, because it's super easy just to go completely advanced, then you need these candidate journey maps, and you need to design everything around that, right? But if you look at data maturity model, then you can say, when you talk about talent attraction, recruitment, that is down here, right? Step 0, step 1. And if we start there, it's actually just a matter of understanding what you do today. So if you use 5 different job boards because you're used to doing that, you have disagreement with them, then start there. Understanding if they actually perform according to what you expect. Start setting some goals, following up with these goals, and actually make some better decisions whether you should not use that job board compared to these jobs or this job board in that country. If we start there, that would be a great first step. Yep. And then you can go more advanced from there. Then you can connect that with your employer branding. Okay, so when we do employer branding campaigns, where it's a bit more targeted towards a certain audience, then try to connect that data in and see, okay, if we do that, how they're actually interacting with our content, what are they reading, what is interesting for them, how many times do they actually visit our career page before they apply, what kind of are the difference between men and women, different ages, etc. That will potentially be the next step, right? And then one thing that's is always missing when it comes to employer branding, and that's some clear call to action. And again, that could be building a talent pipeline, right? So when you communicate to all of the people that are not ready to apply today anyway, then build it with some kind of call to action. Talent pipeline, talent pool, whatever kind of tool you want to do something at least so you can start to see the benefit of what you're doing there, and then connect that to the recruitment. And then from there on, then you can go down the candidate experience road and say, okay, we'll do all these things right. What can we then fix in the candidate experience side, the application flow, et cetera, right? So it's actually just a matter of starting quite small, and then you go more and more advanced. Then you go into the hiring process, starting to fixing that. So again, you have just certain departments where they're too slow at actually bringing in clients. It's a major problem for talent acquisition, right? Because they're getting all the blame. They shouldn't, but they also need to look at that data, find that bottleneck, and do something about it. And I think also there's a lot to learn here. So yeah, so it's one step at a time. Start simple, and then you go more and more advanced. And at the end, that's where you can start to talk about prediction, AI, machine learning, and all of that. But again, it doesn't make sense that all kind of companies go out and buy these great tools for such if they don't have consolidated, clean data, because then you're just doing prediction on something that's unstructured, and then the answer you will get will be useless. So yeah.
Okay, I'm going to come back to AI and a couple of other aspects of that in a minute. Peter's made a comment on here. Completely agree on the job board point. Working for one, it is one of my biggest frustrations when recruiters do not track their ROI and make their buying decision emotively or based on a recent example rather than the overall truthful experience and results gleaned from the data. Wow. So, I mean, yeah, I would hope that gone are the days when one team in a job board have got a monster sales team who are just flogging job ads because they're extremely persuasive and companies are actually buying based on that. I hope those days are gone, but I don't think they are. I think they're still there.
No, they're not, right? And you can say that's another reason why cost per hire is also increasing. Is if you're not data driven, then you're doing whatever you do in 30 days, 45 days, and find out I didn't get my candidates, then I don't want to do. I go to a headhunter, right? Yeah. That's a completely typical setup, right? And it's going to cost you a fortune. The quality of hire is not going to be that fantastic, and the hire is going to be more expensive when you go through a headhunter. And there's so many things you could have done in between if you had the data at hand, and if you had someone to help you actually understand that data, so you could take some concrete action during that recruitment period. So
for all of my recruitment agency customers out there, I don't necessarily agree with the candidate quality of hire might not be great. It probably could be great, but I absolutely get your point.
Yeah, but it all depends, right? I'm not here to say that headhunters and agencies are not going to exist. That's not my point. They definitely have a role, but it all depends on the situations. I just believe there's too many basic roles that should be quite easy to close yourself that end up in an agency. And I think there's something to be done there for companies.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay. So when you're collecting like demographic and firmographic information about people, like their age and their race and things like that, I mean, are we getting into a complicated area around data gathering, and are the things that our companies should be avoiding, or what's your take on that?
No, you can say the way we do it is that, again, as mentioned, we have our own tracking on the website. We have our own campaign tracking. So when someone visits the career website and they go into a candidate, then from there on, we connect directly to the ATS, right? And from the ATS, we can then take data back, whether that's male or female, certain age, etc., all anonymized, and then we can bring that data back and say, in this department, you have certain issues that actually filling your target of a more diverse workplace, right? Because you're constantly hiring men or whatever that might be. There are certain things you cannot, of course, not get access to, because that wouldn't be according to data legalization. And of course, that's race and religion, all of that. That's not even accessible, right? But it's more like the overall demographics, again, so you can make the diversity agenda a bit more actionable, instead of that being a fine KPI on a board slide every quarter, and then you look at it going up and down without having any concrete actions behind. And I think that is something you need to use, because you can say there's also a big difference between how different ages and men and female actually applying for jobs, right? Where men is a bit more just clicking the job out or whatever they do and they go in and apply directly, right, without thinking too much about certain things.
I could do that.
Where women are yeah, exactly right. I can do everything. And women maybe a bit, but think about it. They have a deeper thought about that, right? And the candidate journey is different. And you should also design your recruitment according to your recruitment plan and your recruitment strategy according to that, if you want to have a certain target for a more diverse workforce. So, and it doesn't have to be complicated at all.
Yeah. Okay. I know this is a slight tangent, but are companies, I mean, for like diversity, is that something that companies are regularly talking to you about as a challenge and something that they want you to help them with?
Yes, you can say we actually just started to add that kind of diversity data into our recruitment mix. So it's quite new for us, but it's, I don't think, maybe like all companies, larger companies, enterprises, they have diversity on their agenda, right? They potentially have some kind of goals for the mix, and they have a strategy that you're not allowed to be biased in your choice of candidates, right? So that's definitely the agenda. But again, today is just very difficult to actually make actionable, because you're looking at a KPI that's a quarter old, and then you don't know exactly what happened with these kind of recruitments because you don't have that data at hand. And that's again what we make actionable, so you can see exactly which departments are maybe more biased in their hiring compared to other. And then we also compare that to correlation to candidate quality rating, which is done by the talent acquisition manager. And then you can start actually pinpointing certain bottlenecks, having these conversations, find out why is that actually happening over here, not here.
So is your product an automation product, or is it is there machine learning within there? Is it an AI driven product? Where is it on the kind of AI spectrum?
Well, we have machine learning elements. As I mentioned earlier, I think there is, even though I'm a data guy, I work for many data companies, I think there's too much focus on the new shiny object, machine learning and AI. Lots of companies are coming out talking about that, but cannot really deliver because you need a certain amount of data actually to do anything that's meaningful. The other part, it has to be connected. But we have certain elements, a simple small thing we made is what we call our goals, which actually works as an alert. So a talent acquisition manager could go in, pinpoint whatever 2, 3, 4 positions that's extremely important, and then set a goal. Goal would be around applications. That's also a super healthy exercise, actually, that you need to think about how many applications do you actually would like to have for this job, because then you can start to also do the budgeting and choose your channels. But and then we just do the machine learning, where there's a correlation between the traffic you generate and the amount of applications. And it doesn't need to be that advanced. After 3 to 5 days, we can always start predicting if you're going to be successful with that goal. And as soon as we see now the chance of getting slim, then we will send you an alert and a recommendation about what could be a next potential step if you want to reach that specific goal. So that's one element. Then we have the other part, which is our media plan. So you can say, based upon your own data and based upon your media deals and social media, whatever you use, you can add that into the platform, and then you will get predicted outcome of choosing certain job or social media associated with that specific position, where we both look at the organic traffic that you're going to generate in general, and then compare that if with paid traffic, and then we get a certain estimate, pretty precise estimate of the job views you will generate and then the amount of applications.
Yeah. Let's talk about GDPR. When you're gathering data, it potentially creates additional GDPR challenges. I'm interested to know if you see GDPR as a big opportunity for a business like yours or a potential problem.
I would say none of the above. You can say yes compared to American companies, maybe because we're a European company, that's always better when it comes to data legalization and GDPR. But you can say we only work with anonymized data. So all the data we kind of collect from the candidate, that's all cookie-based and anonymized. When we connect it into the ATS, that's going to be nice. So we only bring data back that's very kind of pinpoint that on a specific person. And then we have like data processing agreements with all of our clients. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Now, I know that you're international. You've got customers in different parts of the world. I'm interested to know from your experience, which countries are particularly sophisticated around data and talent acquisition in general, and which countries have got more work to do from your experience?
Yeah, again, back to what I started with marketing. Is very much the same setup. You could say even the US, I'm not talking about all of US because there's many companies over there that's not data driven at all, but in general, they have a natural, they kind of, it's natural with them to work with KPI, very much bonuses and all of that. That always the carrot, right? But they're more KPI driven. They're more metric driven in general. So you can say American companies, UK companies, at least compared to the Nordics and rest of Europe, that's also something that's more natural to them. So that's definitely the difference. Where I say the rest of Europe, Germany, the Nordics, we're okay at data, but we're not fantastic. I think we had a lot to learn there still. But I think that's the main differences.
Yeah.
So
the Netherlands, have you had much experience?
Okay, I forgot the Netherlands. They also very data driven, to be quite honest.
They're they are.
Yeah.
So I regularly have conversations with people in the Netherlands who say to me, well, in the Netherlands, we are like #1 in terms of HR tech and recruitment technology. And I say, in my experience, I think you're one equal with the UK. But when I say the UK, I really mean London, to be honest. And no offense to people outside London, but that's kind of where there's a lot happening. So,
yeah.
Okay. And the future. So, I mean, is your product at like version 1? I mean, have you got a long, big product roadmap? Maury Hannigan, who runs a product called Sparkstart in the USA, says that she finds it, it kind of shocks people when they say to her, what's your roadmap? And she says, I don't have one. This product is great as it is, and I don't have any plans for it. Have you got a long way to go? Have you got not very far to go? What are you doing? What are the next steps?
Well, it's not because we have a roadmap for the next 3 years, right? We have a vision, we have a mission about what we want to achieve, and we also have a lot of great ideas of what we want to build for the next 6 months. But you can say for now, our product is fantastic, it's great, and you can say we very much, part of the roadmap is also working closer with our clients, right? Integrating all of these different data silos that actually have taken their payroll data, take that data back to, the recruitment part, right? So you will have upfront answers about what you can expect of salaries, and again, having performance management data in there. So it's more like on the integration side, because very different companies have completely different platforms and systems. So there's a lot to be done there. But of course, when it comes to talk about the buzzwords, the machine learning and AI, of course, there would be a lot of great, fantastic things you could do there. But again, one step at a time. So if you talk about data maturity model, you're down here, don't talk about AI machine learning because it wouldn't work in reality, right? You need to go up here. But we have a lot of great ideas, but today the product solves great big challenges for our clients. And then we just build upon that. But we see ourselves as a data management platform, you will know, from marketing, just for HR, talent acquisition, recruitment. So yeah.
Okay, so from your experience in the marketing technology world, and the way that things have gone there, what do you predict to happen in recruitment tech over the next couple of years? How do you predict the market, maturing, and what's likely to happen with all the different? Because it is very, very fragmented today.
It is, and again, that's an opportunity for us. The more the merrier. The more platforms out there, the better for us, because then we can consolidate the data, right? But what you're going to see is that you're going to have there's different stages. I don't know if you stage 2 when it comes to HR tech as we speak. There's an awful lot of venture and investments out there, awful lot of money, and everyone trying to find their spot and their place, right? Whether that's an ATS platform or a recruitment marketing platform, a little bit of both. Can you do some chatbots? They all kind of try different things. There will definitely be a consolidation going on within a year to 1.5, because there's not room for everyone there, to be quite honest.
Yes, I completely agree.
So that will happen, and then you will probably get a stage 3 in 3 to 4 years from now, where that's where you're going to talk about some real AI. But there needs to be a consolidation. There needs to be an integration, because right now we're not doing a lot of recruiters or HR department a lot of favors with too many different fragmented platforms, because it's simply too difficult to manage and justify each of all of these different investments.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's not easy for a buyer today, that's for sure. And you've got so many. I mean, so somebody said to me, we're hiring people just now, and somebody came onto a demo that I did with a customer a couple of days ago, and afterwards she phoned me and she said, well, quite honestly, that's a no-brainer. What are the reasons why somebody wouldn't buy this? And I said, the number one reason is because we're competing for attention. And we're competing, you and I have not got products that are doing the same thing, but we're competing for attention with the same people, as does a whole load of other different things. And it's really challenging to work in the world that we're in. And a lot of companies are not surviving. The guy who runs Talent Tech Labs told me last year that 70% of the organizations that appear on their ecosystem, by 12 months later, they've either been bought or they've stopped trading. So they've gone. It's a complete churn. So I totally agree with what you just said about what's likely to happen over the next 1 to sort of 4 years.
Yeah, and then another point, which I actually miss from advertising. The advertising was very much one big ecosystem where everyone integrated with each other. When it came to programmatic advertising, there was a global protocol for how you actually integrate it with different bidding machineries and auction based and all of that. that's still not in HR tech, and I think there's also something that needs to be done there, and also other companies need to be a bit more open. I think that you have like SAP, you have like Taleo, you have like a Workday, which are all very closed ecosystems. Yes, they have some partner networks. You can integrate certain things, but again, it's extremely closed compared to advertising. And I actually think that is actually not helping anyone, not even the larger companies. So I also think that something needs to happen there, because it's actually closing the opportunities for a lot of companies, but also for a lot of tech providers.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I don't know what can be done about that, but I do agree that would be better for everybody if there was more collaboration. So, Martin, last thing I just wanted to say really was thank you so much for your time. How are people best to make contact with you if they want to talk further?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn if they can spell my last name, or they can write me an email. That's msl@ontame.io, or of course they can go to ontame.io and if fill in our contact form.
Okay, so that's ontame.io.
Correct, yeah.
Cool.
It's short for Online Talent Attraction Metrics.
I never asked you that, actually. That's a good point.
No,
Online Talent Attraction Metrics. Okay.
Metrics, yes.
Good. I didn't ask that. Okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed meeting you. We met very briefly at Talent Tech Rising a couple of months ago. We've spoken since. I'm really interested in what you're doing. I look forward to hopefully seeing you in person in one of the events or something in 2019. And all the best with everything. And anybody wants to make contact with Martin or me about different things, then just do it. And we've got a Talent Tech next week, which is on Kaizen and continuous improvement within talent acquisition from Lindsay Shankland, Lindsay Taylor now, who works with Korn Ferry International. So sign up for that. And Martin, all the best, and thank you again, everybody.
Thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Bye for now.
Thank you.